Hello, I'm Maddie Celarek.
And I'm Riensche, and this is Media for Change,
a television show produced by the students in the Department of Communication and Media at the University of Northern Iowa. We believe that media can be a powerful force for bringing about positive change and innovation in our world.
Today, we're diving into the heartland of America to explore how Iowa is leading the charge in renewable energy production.
Iowa ranks itself as the top state in the U.S. for sustainable, clean energy production.
It's incredible. Wind energy plays a significant role in Iowa's energy landscape, with over 62% of its electricity generated from wind power alone.
And the growth of wind power in Iowa has been staggering. With over 10,000 wind turbines dotting the landscape, the state's wind power capacity has more than quadrupled since 2008.
And with advancements in renewable energy technology and energy storage solutions, off-grid living is becoming increasingly feasible in Iowa. Many rural areas offer opportunities for individuals and communities to achieve greater energy independence.
It's clear that Iowa is not only embracing sustainable energy practices, but also leading the way for other states to follow suit.
Solar panels can generate electricity for up to 30 years or more, making them a long-lasting and sustainable energy solution. Next, let's shine a light on solar panels, powering the future sustainably.
We sell and install solar systems throughout the state of Iowa for both residential and commercial customers. We got in this business to help people save money. My goal is to help people, whether they're a resident or a commercial business, save money on their energy costs.
We sell results. Everybody's looking to lower their energy costs, and what we do is we look at how much energy people are using, and we size the right size system based on their energy usage.
We put solar panels on your roof, and those UV rays hit that panel, and it starts to create energy. And so the energy will go through this inverter that we're going to put on your house as well, and that changes it from DC, direct current energy, to alternating current, which is how you use it in your home. And that's how it works.
So we target, the red is going to be the Mid-American territories, blue is going to be Interstate Light and Power, Alliant Energy, yellows are going to be, RECs.
Really, right now, if you think about your energy bill, you're paying completely 100% of interest to this energy company, when if you were to go with solar, you would producing your own energy. So then it's kind of like buying a home versus renting. And so you're putting equity into something that you're going to have to pay for the rest of your life, no matter where you're at. So why don't you just own that?
Well, we take a customized approach. Every system's customized to meet that need of the customer. Every home's different. Everybody uses electricity different. So what we do is we actually dig in and see how much energy the consumer is using by month to month. We also study the policy. Does the utility allow net metering, like Mid-America and Alliant Energy? Those are the two big ones in the state. They allow net metering. CFU, Lynn County, some of these other RECs, Grundy County, they have called what is avoided cost or net billing. So what we do is we study the policy. We look at how much energy the consumer is using, and we figure out how many solar panels we need to help them offset their electric bill so that they have that bare minimum charge, which is a basic service charge to be hooked up to the grid. The challenges would be electrical. A lot of people have electrical that's been kind of out of date. You might have a 100 amp service. A lot of homes need to have a 200 amp service. But it all depends on the equipment we use. So there's certain ways that we put together systems. It's all customized to your needs, and that allows us to put it together.
Energy costs have risen so much in the last 2 or 3 years, and they're going to continue to go up. I think those two things are true, is that energy is going to cost more, and you're going to use more. And so it makes solar really a great alternative to continuing to buy energy from the big public companies.
Did you know a single monitored wind turbine can power over 1,500 homes? Stay tuned as we explore the potential and challenges of wind energy in our next segment.
The whole renewable energy situation is in a process of development. We realize that we just can't use fossil fuels endlessly. That's probably not a good thing from a carbon standpoint, to release that much carbon when we don't have to. I think most farmers are very conservation minded, very renewable, sustainable minded. And so the idea of putting renewable energy out there off your farm, that's a big positive. That's the best part. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. You free power from the wind. Well, from a farmer's standpoint, they provide income. I mean, they're renting part of your field and you get a paycheck for that. If you have a wind turbine development put on your farm, of course, you look out to the field, you see a big empty space, but let's think about it. The power is consumed largely in the large metro areas, Kansas City, Minneapolis, Chicago, Omaha, Des Moines. These are places where they need a lot of electrical power. And what's around there? Fertile farmland. First of all, for the layman to look out in the field, you see a big empty field and you think, well, it'd be easy to just put a wind turbine out there. But, this is where I make my living. This is, first of all, the topsoil is very precious. It's taken eons to form under our prairie grass soils and get enough organic matter from the prairie grass roots that have been there. And you disturb that when you dig and bury it. Most of the best farmland in Iowa has a subsurface drainage system. It has drain tiles which take off the excess water, and that helps our crops be the most bountiful possible. When you run a power line to take the power away from the windmill, which probably takes 100 concrete trucks full of cement to anchor those things so they stay up in a storm, you're going to cut all those underground drainage lines, and they're going to need repaired, and they're going to have upkeep. Especially in corn, part of our system to provide the highest yield crops is to put on an aerially applied fungicide. And in the summer, we'll have planes apply crop care products, and they're not going to fly close to those wind turbines. So you're probably going to have to accept somewhat of a lower yield on the fields that have a wind turbine in, because you can't use every standard of care in that field. I think wind power will continue to develop. I think that farmland falls a little bit victim to it's just easy to get a lot of space in a field. I question why we don't put this in non-crop areas. Why not put them in the desert or the wastelands, And so I think we'll work it out. It's just got growing pains right now.
Next up, we have Vex and Peyton in the studio to interview Steve Geyer and talk about the Iowa Environmental Council. But first, this message.
If love were a threshold, we could cross every ocean to understand whale song and coral, crab and plankton. If love were strawberries and wheat, we could shape it into a sweetheart dessert, passing our lips as if we had only tasted earth once. And if love were hanging from the branches of the pine and palm, acacia and fir, we could be indivisible from the tiger, the turtle, the bison and birds. If only our love were larger than wildfire and faster to take root. If only our love were more swift than the eye of the hurricane and strong enough to break storm surge. Here is the boldness of our love in one hand, our strength against what we might lose in the other. Can we love more? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hi, welcome back to Media for Change. I'm Peyton Thamke.
And I'm Vex Anderson.
And today we are with Steve Geyer from the Iowa Environmental Council. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Tell us about the Iowa Environmental Council and what your role is.
Sure. So the Iowa Environmental Council is a nonprofit. We are the largest environmental organization in the state. We have approximately 100 member organizations and a little over 500 individual members. Our focus is primarily on energy and water, but we view it through a couple different lenses. We view it through a climate change lens, and we view it through an environmental justice lens. So my particular role is I'm an energy policy counsel, so I spend a lot of time, all my time in fact, working on energy issues.
And what role does energy policy play in the future of environmental sustainability, particularly in Iowa?
Sure, I would say huge. Overall, and again, if we look at this through a climate change lens, we know that we have to basically eventually move to 100% renewable. And we also know that we have to electrify everything. if we want to have any chance of avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. I will point out, and I think some people maybe don't understand, I mean, climate change is like a train, and this train already left the station. So we're not going to avoid the impacts of climate change, but the things we do today and over the next, let's just say, few decades, will have a major impact in terms of whether or not the severest impacts of climate change are avoided.
And why are these important when going after these climate change issues?
Yeah, I mean, so certainly I think for future generations, we want to have a livable climate. And so let's turn to that environmental justice lens. We want to have a situation where everybody can not only have a habitable environment, but something that doesn't pose unnecessary risk. So right now we're already seeing the changes that impact us, whether it's more severe storms, the derecho that came up, two derechos that came through, were excellent examples of a climate change-driven impact. We certainly want to try to minimize that. And as we look at the EJ lens, those impacts are more severe on those that already can't necessarily afford things. So we need to do everything we can to make this transition just, equitable.
And how does the council ensure that renewable energy sources in Iowa are environmentally friendly and well managed?
Sure. So again, that's why we push for renewable energy. I have been a long-time advocate that is really where energy needs to be headed. Our real mission and our goal is how fast can we get there? It's not going to happen overnight. I will pick up on the wind message that we heard there a little bit, just to put some numbers out there. So clearly one of the challenges we face right now is this tension in terms of land utilization and land use. But if we take a look at the numbers, the studies have shown that for Iowa to be 100% renewable by 2050, we would need approximately 64,000 megawatts of wind, 46,000 megawatts of solar. What does that mean to where we are today? So wind, we're about roughly 12,000 megawatts, so a long ways to go. Solar, we're only a few hundred megawatts. But even if we built all of that generation, we're looking at less than 1% of Iowa's total land mass to be used for that. So to some extent, we need to put numbers behind the arguments that are being made. And yes, that the reality is the farmers largely want this. I know many farmers, I work at the Environmental Council, but I'm also one of those solar installers. So I deal with these individuals, and they look at this as a way to have their farms propagate to future generations. I know several of them that have both wind and solar farms, and those payments make the difference in terms of either a red line or a black line at the end of the year.
And what are some initiatives that the council specifically takes to combat climate change?
Sure. So again, one of our primary focuses is certainly based on that energy, trying to move towards 100% renewable. So we're going to basically work with counties to try and make sure that the solar ordinances or the wind ordinances are amenable and can actually work with the developers that want to come in and build. We're going to work on legislation. We worked on the net metering bill that was mentioned. That has a big impact in terms of the ability to be compensated for your excess energy at the same rate as the energy that you pay for. We basically work on issues rate cases. We're currently involved in the Alliant rate case, and certainly one of the pushes that we'll be making is we need a plan. We need a plan that basically takes us from today to that 2050 or earlier time frame where we are not generating electricity utilizing the coal and the gas plants, but in fact have a plan that's affordable plan. I mean, that's a key too, but basically maps it out over time in terms of when to build, what to build, that moves us to that 100% target.
That work that you are doing is very interesting, and we will hear more, but first we are going to take a short break right after this message.
Yes, we're on thin ice. And everything is going up in smoke. Our planet is under the weather. But when the going gets tough, the tough get, well, you know. Love it or lose it.
Welcome back to Media for Change. We're talking with Steve Geyer from the Iowa Environmental Council on renewable energy. So, what are some of the benefits of individuals and communities can expect from switching to renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydropower?
Sure. So we can look at that from two different perspectives. So if we look at it from the energy production perspective, the utilities, certainly it has huge benefits. Coal plants are some of the most harmful, basically, plants that we have. We have air emissions that are harmful to public health. We've seen, basically, asthma rates rise. Now that might be attributable to that, it might not, but it certainly is something that we could do to minimize health impacts. There are groundwater impacts from those same plants that people aren't really aware of. A coal plant basically produces ash, and so this ash is buried in these landfills. There's not a single ash landfill in the state that isn't contaminating groundwater. And even when they're lined, they still end up contaminating groundwater. So there are many health impacts that can be remedied at that level. On a personal level or a business level, there are huge benefits. I mean, some of it was already mentioned in some of the previous videos that rolled as far as what an individual can benefit. And yes, it's right. I mean, anything that we look at in the future, the energy rates aren't going to go down. I mean, that's just wishful thinking if we think it's going to go down. So it not only benefits basically that individual of, think of it like you're prepaying for your energy for the next 20 or 30 years. And you're not going to be basically subject to that continual rise in price. Again, the case that we're working on now with Alliant, I mean, they're coming in for a 25% increase. And that's probably not going to, I'll just say, be the last time. Since it's, I think, the third time now in a little over 6 years that they've been in. That will continue. So that personal benefit of not only basically contributing to the minimization, again, and the impact on climate change, because when they put that on their own system, they not only benefit financially, but that reduces potentially load that those utilities then have to meet. So it has a double and a compound effect. Something that's not mentioned, but the battery aspect. That's something that certainly we need to push for. I think I saw the first state actually just approved utilization of your electric cars in a mechanism they call bidirectional virtual power plants, where in essence your electric vehicle will sit in the garage and the utility company will utilize that battery as a source of supply. So you will charge it for your driving, but then they can tap it, let's just say at night or whenever, to actually put energy back on the grid. These are things that will require personal investment, but it will benefit the overall system.
And what are your thoughts on opposition to renewable energy, and how does the council respond to those oppositions?
Yeah, there's a lot of it. I will say that most of it is, in fact, we just we're in the process of posting a document out on our website because a lot of it is based on myths, just falsehoods. You get, I'll just say, social media that drives somewhat of a false narrative, and it just compounds itself. Lynn County was the closest example here when the fight was against the solar going on for Duane Arnold. And we heard some of the same things, and all you can do is put out the truth. One of the things I sort of laugh at myself was the claim that the solar panels were going to contaminate the soil with cadmium and other metals. You're like, no, they won't. But part of the problem is people don't even know how that solar panel is produced. And sure, there are chemicals that were used during the production process, but that's not the same as then something that's going to leach into the groundwater. So we deal with it by trying to address those as falsehoods, trying to reassure them that no, these are not correct. Wind faced and still faces a number of opposition groups that want to complain about the noise element. We actually coupled with University of Iowa to do a study whether or not that's a real effect. And the study concluded that it's not a real effect, that there may be a psychological effect that induces you to think that you're being basically affected by that source, but it's not real. That's been confirmed pretty much by other studies, but again, we try and put facts to the myth.
And what are some steps individuals can take to access these facts?
Sure. Again, I would certainly recommend looking at our website. We try and keep stuff out there to help. We have a lot of papers out there that are useful papers. We have siting guides that counties can use to hopefully put in effect solid and good ordinances. We have papers that talk about, in fact, I produce a whole series of papers talking about I call it the condition of the state. And so every year, sort of mapping out, well, where are we this year? You know, how much further progress have we made on that renewable goal? And as it was mentioned, yes, we capped out at 63%. This past year, we went down a little bit. The wind production actually went down. We didn't have as much wind. But that's also why my perspective is, and I think a lot of people's perspective, we need to move past the wind. We need to start investing in the solar. We need to start investing in the storage, and so that we have a balanced system. Because the nice thing about the wind and the solar is they're very complementary. When the solar is actually producing the most is when the wind produces the least, and vice versa.
And what do you see as the future of renewable energy in Iowa?
I think I see it as a very big positive. Now, admittedly, I mean, you know, one of those myths is that if it wasn't subsidized, it wouldn't be there. That's a myth. And the reason it's a myth is that the utility companies are building the renewable because it's actually the least costly form of energy. Solar and wind both are the cheapest forms of energy that we can have. It beats coal, it beats natural gas, it beats nuclear, hands down, and it has zero pollution. So certainly those are attributes that we want to push.
Yeah, so thank you so much for speaking with us about the organization. Educating ourselves about renewable energy, climate change, and environmental justice is important.
We will be right back after this short message.
Suppose now shush. She makes the sound she makes to calm me down. She makes the sound she makes me. She makes the sound she makes me deep in the North Sea.
Next up, we will be taking a look at a new and upcoming environmentally sustainable community, Switch Homes, created by Matt Mulligan. He shares his story on how Switch Homes came to be and the benefits purchasing one can have.
So Switch Homes was started a couple of years ago by my wife and I, and it really started after we moved here to Eastern Iowa. As we really got up into the COVID area period of time, it became blatantly clear that not only Eastern Iowa, but frankly, as a country, we have a housing issue. More importantly, we have an affordable housing issue. So that's where Switch Homes was really born from, is trying to bring affordable homes, yes, but then we really tagged that along with efficient homes. We knew that we wanted to do it. It was a great idea, and frankly, it's something that's been kicked around for some time. But it was really thinking, when is the right time? So when I set out to design the homes, there were a couple of areas I wanted to focus on. The master bedroom was one, and the kitchen was the other. Yes, they are affordable. They're affordable because they're small. That was our thinking when we designed it. When it comes to the names, the first house I bought, I think was called like the Willow or something like that. You know what? I don't know what that means, but okay. They're all named after like a tree or a leaf something goofy. So I said, well, I would like mine to be called I'm Old But Cooler Than You. And it went on from there. So we came up with 6 or 7, 8 models and gave them great names, and they got better as we went on. So efficiency of a home starts with the envelope of the home. So that's the walls and that's the roof. And so we have 2x6 construction. We have sheeting that's impregnated with an air and water barrier. Great windows that are made here in Iowa. Same thing goes for the roof, a class 4 shingle. We want to be thoughtful for those products that we have on the outside of our home. Now apply that, so every home is ENERGY STAR rated, which means we're actually doing air tests in our home to measure the leakage within the home, because when it's hot outside, we want to keep it cool inside, and vice versa. So the biggest way to lose your efficiency is take all that conditioned air you're creating inside and push it outside. And then we move into the HVAC systems that we choose, the LED lighting that we choose, the option for a buyer to add solar panels. Every house comes with an electric vehicle charging station. And you know, your home is basically built. You may not have the EV today, but you might have it in 10 years. So let's be prepared for that today versus what you're seeing right now, where people are adding that into their home and maybe they're not sized correctly to actually bring that charger into the home. So, you know, we're really building, yes, for today, no doubt, but we're also preparing for what's coming down the road.
This has been Media for Change. Before we go, let's leave you with some numbers that speak volumes. Did you know that over 40% of Iowa's electricity comes from wind power?
The economic benefits are staggering. Investing in clean energy and off-grid solutions doesn't just save money, it creates resilience.
With supportive policies and initiatives, Iowa is proving that sustainability isn't just a trend, it's the future.
So let's keep these stats in mind as we continue to advocate for change. Thank you for tuning in.
Until next time, remember every statistic is a step towards a brighter, greener future. Stay informed, stay inspired, and stay tuned to Media for Change.